You know, some stories don't just fade away. They wait. They're preserved in the dark, in the cold, silent depths. This isn't just another tale of a shipwreck. This is a legend about a king's ego, a fatal engineering sin, and a wooden colossus that was silenced by the sea before it ever got the chance to roar. It's a monument to pride, perfectly frozen in time.
So here's the journey we're about to take. We'll start with the ship's ghostly return from the abyss. Then we'll get inside the mind of the king whose vision sealed its fate. We'll pinpoint the exact fatal flaw, live through its terrifying final moments, and then, finally, understand the powerful lesson it's still teaching us today.
So where do we even begin this story? Well, funny enough, it's not in the 17th century with cannons and kings. It starts centuries later with a ghost rising from the mud, a legend clawing its way back into the light after a silence so long it feels impossible.
333 years. Just let that number sink in. For over 3 centuries, this magnificent warship, the Vasa, was completely forgotten, buried deep in the cold, dark mud of Stockholm Harbor. It wasn't just a wreck, it was a perfect time capsule, just waiting for someone to find the key.
And when it finally did return to the air in 1961, the world was absolutely stunned. I mean, the preservation was just miraculous. Kind of wild, right? But the murky, low-oxygen water had basically pickled the oak, protecting it from the tiny shipworms that usually devour wooden wrecks. It was a ghost, almost perfectly intact from an era long gone. A ship that had sailed for less than a single mile.
So you gotta ask, right? Who builds something so incredible yet so fundamentally cursed? Well, to understand the ship, you first have to understand the man who dreamed it up, King Gustavus Adolphus. They called him the Lion of the North. And trust me, he didn't just want a warship. He wanted a symbol of raw power, a weapon of pure shock and awe.
The king's ambition was just off the charts. He was fighting major wars across Europe, and he needed a way to project Sweden's might across the sea. The Vasa was going to be that projection. It was basically a floating cathedral of death, covered in hundreds of sculptures, all designed to make his enemies want to surrender just from the sight of it.
And what a titan it was. I mean, just look at these numbers. We're talking about a ship nearly 70 meters long with masts soaring 17 stories into the sky. And the firepower, my God, 64 heavy cannons. Its broadside, that's all the cannonballs fired from one side at once, was one of the heaviest on the entire planet at the time. This thing was the Death Star of the 1600s, no question.
But here, right here, is where the fairy tale takes a very dark turn. Because all that ambition created a conflict. Not a battle on the high seas, but a battle right there in the shipyard. A battle between the king's ego and the cold, unbendable laws of nature. And here's a spoiler. Physics doesn't care if you're a king.
Okay, so this is it, the engineering sin. The whole thing boiled down to one single change. The ship was designed to have one stable gun deck, keeping it nice and balanced. But the king wanted more firepower, so he ordered a second, fully loaded gun deck to be slapped on top. It made the whole ship dangerously top-heavy. Think of it like trying to balance a skyscraper on a canoe. It was doomed from the start.
And the craziest part? They knew. Oh, they absolutely knew. Before it ever set sail, they did a stability test. They had 30 sailors run back and forth on the top deck, and this giant warship started to rock so violently, the admiral in charge completely freaked out and stopped the test. He was terrified it was going to flip over right there at the dock. But the king was away at war, demanding his ship be delivered. So, that chilling warning, it was buried under royal impatience.
Which brings us to August 10th, 1628. Picture the scene. It's a party in Stockholm. Thousands of people are cheering from the shore, watching the pride of their entire nation get ready to sail. The cannon ports are open, showing off all that bronze. It's this incredible, magnificent spectacle. And not a single person there knows they're about to witness a catastrophe. The end came so fast, it was horrifying. First, a light gust of wind hits. Not a storm, not even a strong wind, just a breeze. The ship leans to its side. A minute later, those open gun ports on the lower deck dip below the surface. Then, a second gust hits. And that's it. It's the point of no return. The sea just pours in. In less than 20 minutes, as the crowds watch in complete horror, the Vasa is gone. Vanished.
About 30 people went down with the ship.
Sailors, crew, even women and their families. Silenced forever, not by an enemy cannonball, but by the sheer weight of their own king's ambition.
Well, you can imagine the fallout. It was a national humiliation. The king was absolutely furious. He wanted someone's head on a platter. But the inquest found no one to blame. The shipbuilders blamed the king's orders, and everyone else blamed the ship's design. It was a whole lot of finger-pointing. So in the end, they just swept it under the rug, calling it an act of God. The ship was forgotten, but its lesson was just lying in wait.
And this is what's so incredible. The Vasa's failure was so perfect, so textbook, that it actually gave us a term we still use today in the business world, the Vasa syndrome. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's what we call it when a project is doomed from the start because a leader's ego and their unrealistic goals completely steamrolled the warnings from the actual experts.
And when they brought the ship back up, it had a few more secrets to share. First, it proved beyond any doubt that they knew it was unstable before it sailed. Second, its firepower was the real deal, truly world-class. And maybe the most amazing discovery? DNA analysis confirmed at least one of the victims was a woman, which completely rewrites what we thought we knew about who served on these 17th century warships.
So you see, the story of the Vasa isn't just history. It's a timeless warning. It's a mirror. And it leaves us with this one critical question to think about. As we build our own modern marvels, our own technological titans, how many of them are being launched with a fatal flaw? How many are ignoring the quiet warnings from experts, all for the sake of some leader's ambition? How many are sailing straight into a disaster that 400 years from now will seem just as obvious and just as tragic as the Vasas?